In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, a heated debate raged. At its center stood Zilon, the Zephyrian ambassador, her slim figure trembling under the weight of 1,000 judging stares. "Esteemed counselors," Zilon began, her melodic voice barely concealing her desperation. "For centuries, the Zephyrian people have sought a place among the stars. We come to you now, humbly asking for membership in this great assembly." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A hulking reptilian delegate from the Drazari Empire rose to speak. "The Zephyrians," he scoffed. "What could such a frail species possibly offer the Council? They have no warriors, no great fleets. They are weak." Zilon's luminescent skin flushed a deeper blue. "We may lack physical might, but our minds are sharp. Our technology." "Enough." The Drazari delegate slammed a clawed fist against his podium. "The Council has no place for those who cannot pull their own weight. The Zephyrians' request for membership is denied." A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Then, a chorus of agreement rose from the other delegates. Zilon could only watch in horror as her people's hopes were shattered. With a heavy heart, Zilon returned to her ship and set a course for Zephyria. As the blue-green world came into view, she steeled herself to deliver the devastating news. In the grand hall of the Zephyrian conclave, Zilon stood before the gathered leaders of her people. "The Galactic Council has turned us away," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. "They deem us too weak to join their ranks." Distressed murmurs filled the hall. "What will we do now?" One counselor asked. "Our resources dwindle, and our world can no longer sustain us. Without aid." "There may be another way," Zilon said. "During my studies, I came across mentions of a young species just taking their first steps into the stars. They call themselves humans." She activated a holographic display, showing a blue-white world orbiting a yellow star. "Earth," she said, "a world of great diversity and potential. Perhaps, if the Council will not have us." The Zephyrian Prime Counselor, an elderly male named Zorian, raised a hand for silence. "You suggest we seek aid from these humans, a species so new to the cosmic stage? What choice do we have?" Zilon asked. "The Council has forsaken us. The humans may be our last hope." Zorian considered for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Very well. Ambassador Zilon, you will travel to this Earth. Plead our case to the humans. May the stars guide your journey." As Zilon's ship raced through the void, she could only pray that the humans would prove more compassionate than the Council. The fate of her people now rested on the kindness of strangers from a distant star. Light years away, in a SETI observatory nestled in the mountains of California, Dr. Lena Chandra stared at her screen in disbelief. A signal pulsed across the display, unmistakably artificial in origin. With trembling hands, she reached for her comm unit. "Get me the president," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've made contact." Humanity's dilemma. The Situation Room was in chaos. President Amanda Nichols struggled to make herself heard over the clamor of raised voices. "Madam President," General Trent Armstrong's voice boomed over the din. "We cannot trust these aliens. This Zephyrian distress call could be a trap, a prelude to invasion." Dr. Lena Chandra shook her head vehemently. "I've analyzed the signal 100 times. It's authentic. The Zephyrians are genuinely seeking our help." Secretary of State Marcus Feldman leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "But why us? Why would an advanced alien race turn to humanity for aid?" "Because we're their last hope," Dr. Chandra said softly. "From what I can gather, the Zephyrians have been rejected by the wider galactic community. They're desperate." President Nichols held up a hand, silencing the room. "Dr. Chandra, what exactly are the Zephyrians proposing?" Lena consulted her notes. "They seek temporary refuge on Earth. In exchange, they offer to share their advanced technology with us." The room erupted once more. "Advanced technology," Secretary of Defense Julia Ortega said, her eyes widening. "If we could study their science, engineer their advancements, It could propel human innovation forward by centuries, or it could end in disaster. General Armstrong countered. We have no way of knowing the full capabilities of their tech. It could be weaponized, turned against us. The debate raged for hours. Some, like Dr. Chandra, argued passionately for aiding the Zephyrians, seeing it as a moral imperative. Others, like General Armstrong, urged caution, even opposition. In the end, it was President Nichols who made the call. We cannot, in good conscience, turn our backs on a species in need, she said, but nor can we ignore the potential risks. We will allow a small delegation of Zephyrians to come to Earth, but they will be under constant supervision, their technology closely monitored. It's the best balance I can strike between compassion and caution. As the meeting adjourned, President Nichols turned to Dr. Chandra. Lena, I want you to lead the team that makes first contact with the Zephyrians. You've been our foremost expert on this from the start. Lena nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling within her. I'll do my best, Madam President. The decision to conditionally accept the Zephyrians was not universally popular. Protests erupted outside the White House, with demonstrators waving signs bearing slogans like Earth for Humans and No Alien Invasion. On the floor of the United Nations, Ambassador Nikolai Petrov of Russia voiced his government's displeasure. The Russian Federation strongly opposes this unilateral decision by the United States, he said, his voice cold. The potential threats these aliens pose are a matter of global security. This is not a choice for one nation to make alone. Similar sentiments were echoed in capitals around the world, from Beijing to London to New Delhi. President Nichols and her allies had their work cut out for them, trying to foster international cooperation. All the while, the Zephyrian delegation drew nearer to Earth, their hopes pinned on the compassion of a species they barely knew. Ambassador Zilon could only watch the blue-white world grow larger in her viewport and pray that the humans would not let her people down. As the alien ship entered Earth orbit and began its descent, the whole world held its breath. The next few days would determine the future not just of two species, but potentially of the galaxy itself. First contact. The Zephyrian ship hung in space, a sleek silver vessel that seemed to shimmer against the stars. Aboard the International Space Station, Dr. Lena Chandra and her team prepared to make history. Lena's heart raced as she stepped into the airlock, her spacesuit feeling suddenly constricting. This was the moment she had dreamed of her entire life, the chance to meet an alien species face to face. The airlock hissed open, revealing the docking tube that now connected the ISS to the Zephyrian ship. Lena took a deep breath and began the journey across the umbilical. As she emerged into the Zephyrian vessel, Lena's eyes widened in wonder. The interior was bathed in soft, blue light, the walls seeming to pulse with energy. And there, waiting to greet her, was Ambassador Zilon. The Zephyrian was tall and slender, her skin a mesmerizing shade of lavender. Her large, almond-shaped eyes seemed to hold the depth of galaxies. Dr. Chandra, Zilon said, her voice musical and haunting. On behalf of the Zephyrian people, I thank you for receiving us. Lena managed a smile, hoping it didn't betray her nerves. Ambassador Zilon, welcome to Earth. We're honored to have you here. Over the next several hours, Lena and her team met with the Zephyrian delegation, learning more about their plight and the technology they offered. Our energy manipulation technology could revolutionize your planet, Zilon explained, displaying holographic schematics. Clean, limitless power, enough to fuel your cities and spacecraft for generations. Dr. Marcus Rayner, one of Lena's colleagues, leaned forward in fascination. This is incredible, he breathed. But why share this with us? Why not use it to win favor with the Galactic Council? Zilon's expression turned somber. The Council sees only our physical weakness, not the strength of our minds and hearts. They believe we have nothing of value to offer. She met Lena's gaze. But perhaps humanity will see us differently. As the meeting concluded, and the human delegation prepared to return to the ISS, Lena couldn't help but feel a swell of sympathy for the Zephyrians. They had come so far, endured so much, all in the hope of finding a new home. Your technology will need to be thoroughly studied and tested before it can be implemented on Earth, Lena told Zilon. But I promise we will give your people a fair chance. Zilon bowed her head in gratitude. That is all we ask, Dr. Chandra. A chance. Back on Earth, news of the successful first contact dominated headlines around the globe. Alien ambassadors arrive on Earth, the New York Times proclaimed. A new era begins. But not everyone celebrated the Zephyrians' arrival. In online forums and underground circles, conspiracy theories began to swirl. Some claimed the Zephyrians were here to colonize Earth, to subjugate humanity. Others believed their technology was a Trojan horse, designed to make humans dependent before turning on them. In a dimly lit basement, a group of men gathered around a table, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens. They called themselves the Earth Defense League, and they had one goal: to expose the Zephyrians as the threat they believed them to be. These aliens cannot be trusted, their leader, a former soldier named Jack Carver, said. It's up to us to protect our planet, even if our own governments won't. As the Zephyrians began their diplomatic mission on Earth, they were unaware of the forces conspiring against them, the seeds of fear and mistrust taking root. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, and the fragile alliance between humanity and the Zephyrians would soon be put to the ultimate test. Tensions rise. In the weeks following the Zephyrians' arrival, a sprawling encampment had been established in the Nevada desert to house the alien refugees. Dubbed New Hope by the media, it was a place of scientific marvels and cultural exchange, where human and Zephyrian worked side by side. But not all was well in New Hope. As Dr. Lena Chandra walked through the bustling streets, she couldn't help but notice the tension in the air. Human soldiers patrolled the perimeter, their weapons at the ready. Some of the Zephyrian refugees looked at them with fear and mistrust. Lena's destination was the research lab at the heart of the encampment. Inside, she found Dr. Marcus Rayner hunched over a workbench, his brow furrowed in concentration. Marcus, Lena called. I need to talk to you. Dr. Rayner looked up, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Lena, come look at this, he said, gesturing to the device on the table. It's a prototype Zephyrian energy converter. If we can make this work, it could power a city the size of New York for a year. Lena shook her head. That's great, Marcus, but we need to talk about the security situation. There have been more clashes between the refugees and the soldiers. People are on edge. Dr. Rayner sighed. I know, and it's not just here. I've been hearing rumors. Apparently some Zephyrian tech has made it into the wrong hands. Lena's eyes widened. What do you mean? Black market deals, mostly. But there was an incident in Los Angeles. Some gang got their hands on a Zephyrian weapon. It didn't end well. Lena rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. This was exactly what they had feared, the misuse of advanced alien technology. We need to talk to Ambassador Zilon, she said. She needs to know what's happening. But when they found Zilon, the ambassador looked even more troubled than they were. Dr. Chandra, Dr. Rayner, she said, I'm afraid I have some disturbing news. She led them to a communications room, where a holographic display showed a fleet of ships hanging in space. A galactic council fleet has been detected entering your solar system, Zilon said, her voice grave. They're here for us. Lena's heart sank. She had always known this was a possibility, that the council would come to take the Zephyrians by force. We won't let them take you, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Earth granted you asylum. We'll stand by that. But even as she said the words, Lena knew it wouldn't be that simple. Earth was a divided world, and not everyone would be willing to risk war with the Galactic Council for the sake of the Zephyrians. In the halls of power, the debate raged. General Armstrong was adamant. We cannot fight the Council, he said in a tense meeting with President Nichols. Our technology is decades, maybe centuries behind theirs. It would be suicide. But others, like Secretary Ortega, disagreed. We made a promise to the Zephyrians, she argued. We can't just hand them over. It goes against everything we stand for. President Nichols, her face lined with worry, knew there were no easy answers. She could only hope that diplomacy could prevail, that a peaceful solution could be found. But on the fringes, the Earth Defense League was preparing for war. They saw the Council's arrival as proof of what they'd always believed, that the Zephyrians were a threat, that their presence would only bring ruin to Earth. The time for action is now, Jack Carver told his followers, his eyes burning with zealous fervor. We will defend our planet, even if our leaders won't. Earth for humans. As the Council fleet drew closer and tensions reached a breaking point, the fate of two species hung in the balance. The next few days would decide the future of not just the Zephyrians and humanity, but potentially the entire galaxy. The clock was ticking, and time was running out. The Galactic Council intervenes. The Galactic Council ship was a behemoth, dwarfing the largest human vessels as it entered Earth orbit. On the bridge, High Counselor Drasnak stared at the viewscreen, his reptilian eyes narrowed. The humans have been harboring the Zephyrians for too long, he growled. It is time to bring them to heel. He turned to his subordinate, a insectoid Kilhar. Open a channel to the human leaders. Let us see if they will see reason. In the White House Situation Room, President Nichols and her advisors watched in tense silence as the alien visage of Drasnak appeared on the screen. People of Earth, the High Counselor began, his voice a rasping hiss. You have taken in a criminal element. The Zephyrians are fugitives, wanted for their crimes against the Galactic Council. You will hand them over immediately, or face the consequences. President Nichols stood firm, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. High Counselor Drasnak, the Zephyrians came to us seeking asylum, and we granted it. They have committed no crimes on Earth. We will not hand them over. Drasnak's eyes flashed with anger. Then you will suffer the same fate as your Zephyrian friends. You have one Earth rotation to comply. After that, we will take them by force. The screen went dark, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. General Armstrong was the first to speak. Madam President, we need to think carefully about our next steps. The Galactic Council's technology is far beyond ours. A direct confrontation would be disastrous. But Secretary Ortega shook her head. We can't just give in to their threats. The Zephyrians trusted us. We gave them our word. As the debate raged on, Dr. Lena Chandra watched with a growing sense of dread. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something catastrophic. Her fears were realized when an urgent message came from New Hope. There had been an attack. A group of human extremists had infiltrated the encampment and detonated a series of bombs. Dozens of Zephyrians were dead, along with several human scientists and soldiers. In the chaos of the attack, a faction of Zephyrian radicals had managed to steal several pieces of advanced technology, including weapons and spacecraft. They had flown into space, vowing revenge against the humans who had betrayed them. Ambassador Zilon was distraught. Dr. Chandra, I don't know what to do, she said, her voice trembling. My people are divided. Some want to fight, others want to flee. And with the Galactic Council coming. Lena placed a comforting hand on Zilon's shoulder. We'll figure this out, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Humanity is divided too, but there are still those who believe in doing the right thing. But time was running out. As the deadline set by the Galactic Council approached, President Nichols was faced with an impossible choice. Hand over the Zephyrians and betray the principles of asylum and compassion, or stand firm and risk a war that could destroy them all. In the end, it was a message from an unlikely source that tipped the scales. Jack Carver, the leader of the Earth Defense League, had been captured trying to flee the country after the attack on New Hope. In exchange for leniency, he provided a treasure trove of information, names, locations, plans. It was clear now that the Earth Defense League had been working with elements within the government and military who wanted to sabotage the Zephyrian alliance. Armed with this knowledge, President Nichols made a final desperate plea to the Galactic Council. She laid out the evidence of the conspiracy against the Zephyrians, arguing that they had been victims, not criminals. It was a gamble, but it paid off. Faced with the prospect of being seen as complicit in a crime against a member species, the Galactic Council backed down. They agreed to grant the Zephyrians a provisional membership, with their status to be reviewed pending a full investigation. It was not a perfect solution, but it bought them time. Time for humanity and the Zephyrians to heal, to rebuild trust, and to work towards a future where they could stand together as equals. As the Galactic Council ships departed and a fragile peace settled over Earth, Dr. Chandra couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. They had come so close to the brink, but in the end, compassion and reason had prevailed. But the road ahead would not be easy. The scars of the conflict ran deep, and there were still those on both sides who harbored hatred and fear. It would take time, perhaps generations, to truly heal the wounds. But as Lena watched Ambassador Zilon and President Nichols shake hands, a symbol of the renewed commitment between their species, she knew that they had taken the first crucial step. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity and the Zephyrians would face it together.